I'm concentrating on my tomato plants again today. We've got them in 9cm pots at the moment and they're doing really well. Again, they're starting to get a little bit too big for these pots. And because we need to be planting these in ground or in containers in May, we need to encourage these plants to grow as quick as possible. So these 9cm pots are now starting to hold these plants back. So for at least one job today, I'm going to move them into 2 litre pots like we have some previously. That's one that we moved not too long ago, just a couple of weeks or so, and you can see what a difference it's made to growth for these plants. So that's why we're moving these. I usually have about 18 tomato plants in various greenhouses around the garden. This year I'm going to have a few less. I'm probably only going to have 12, but I'm going to put some of these cherry falls, which are the little bush tomatoes that grow cherry tomatoes, into containers. I also need to start and give these plants a little bit of food as well. That's going to encourage growth too. Nice little root system on the bottom of these plants, which as always we free off. And then I'm dropping it back into this 2 litre container, and I'm only putting it slightly deeper because it's a really nice stocky plant, and that's because every time we've potted it on, we've buried it a little bit deeper. So when you look at this plant, you can see that they're the first leaves that came out, and there's hardly any length to that stem. So even if it did stretch a little, which I'm pretty sure it did, we've took that out and made it a really nice compact plant now. And that's the San Maranzo Italian plum tomato. So I better label it, since we have got 3 different varieties, haven't we? And I think if you move them into a 2 litre pot and then let them grow on, just for a couple of weeks during May, they're going to put on enough size to be able to put them straight into the ground. As long as they're about this big, it's a perfect size to pop straight in. And I always use the same size pots as what the plant's in to make holes in the new ones. Just makes it so much easier to get this plant in. Because then it's just a case of dropping it into that pre-made hole, firming it down, and you're done. And your plant's moved on into a nice big container now. So, in a couple of minutes, we've got 2 nice looking tomato plants there. So, since I've just got the one left, I might as well get that moved as well. We have got more tomato plants growing on behind me. They're just not big enough to bother about moving at the moment. But everything this year has grown really slowly. So that's 3 more plants in the new home. And we'll mix up a little bit of tomato food and give these plants a boost of nutrients. And we've also got some of these as well. These are cherry falls. So they're your bush tomato that produce little red cherry tomatoes. But you can see on that one, it started to get a bit long, and a little on this one. So when we repot these, as always, we'll bury it right down to there, taking all that stem away. And then the plant's going to look a lot better and it's going to grow a lot stronger. So now's a good time to move that one on to stop that problem before it gets any worse. So you need to be making your holes a little bit deeper than this original container, because you're going to sink this down by maybe another 2 inch. And to help you do that, you can just break away some at the bottom of this plant, remove a bit of that compost, because then you'll be able to sink it a lot deeper and you've freed all those roots up at the same time. So we'll get that one in. This one we're pushing right down into that compost, like that. You can see how far we're taking it down. We're going to bury all that stem there, and that's going to grow new roots from that stem. So we'll just infill around that stem and then press it down at the same time. And also trying to keep that plant straight. We want a nice straight plant when we come to planting out. So now that plant looks like that. A lot better. Now we've got a much stronger plant. I'll move a couple more of these on, and that's another job done before end of month. We also need to keep his eye on things like cucumbers and courgettes. These have come on in just a few days, and they've now all got the true leaf. They grow very quick. Same as these ones that we've got in just small cells. We've got butternut squash plants there. 3 plants is plenty, because these plants grow really big and they can soon get out of control if you don't keep the eye on them. And then we've got some more courgettes, and you can see how big this plant's getting. So it's definitely in need of moving. I'll just take this one out, and you can see just how much these roots have grown already. We're definitely going to need to move this on. And then we've got some that we've already moved on into 9cm pots, growing really quickly. You can just see the roots are already at the bottom of that container. So these two, ideally, need moving again. I'm not quite ready to put these in ground just yet. Not until at least mid-May. So we've got no option but to accommodate them with larger containers. All these plants are going to end up getting root bound. And exactly the same. But this time, don't plant them any deeper. We only do that with tomato plants. You don't want to be doing it with things like courgettes, squash and cucumbers, because it could cause rot around that stem. This one is not root bound, but the roots are starting to build up. So it's best we move it now before it does become a problem. And this will be the last time we have to move this plant, because in 2 weeks' time we'll be popping them in ground and in containers. Now offer it some feed as well, because anything in that same family like cucumbers, squash, courgettes, melons, they're very heavy nitrogen feeders. Any tomato food's got plenty of nitrogen in it, so once again, as you have done with tomato plants when you've moved them on, offer them a bit of food and you'd be surprised at how much this plant's going to grow in just a week. So coming up towards end of April, it's all about making sure everything has been moved on, because we're very quickly approaching that time where they need to be put in the final spots. In this one, we've got French bean plants. Those same small cells that we grow pretty much everything in. And these are a dwarf variety, but the plants initially are still big when they germinate. And those roots have already worked their way down to the bottom. So these ones you could just move into a 9cm. It'll just give them a new lease of life for a couple of weeks. But also French beans are not cold hardy, so you can't really plant these outside yet. You need to wait until around mid-May, and same with runner beans, because if we even get a light frost, it's going to damage those leaves, and then your plants will sit there for weeks and weeks without growing at all, and we don't want that. So we'll keep them in here and just put them into larger pots. But when I move these plants, I only half fill those 9cm pots, because we've got to get that in. So it's a case of just popping it in that and then infilling around it, not burying that stem any deeper than it were. And that's all you need to do. And once again, offer that a little bit of feed. But you don't need to feed any of your beans or peas with anything that's ever in nitrogen, because they don't need it. They expel nitrogen into air and into the soil as they're growing, which is why we plant them near things like cucumbers and melons, because obviously those plants need that nitrogen. And that's why we use these and melons and cucumbers and courgettes as companion plants, because this plant will feed those others. So you can give it tomato feed, or you can give it liquid seaweed. As tomato plants are growing on really well. That's the second batch that we did. It were too cold to do them when we normally do them, so these are actually quite behind to where we'd normally be. We've got those bigger ones because we sowed them earlier and we offered them protection indoors, and then we hardened them off before we brought them out. But these have all got the true leaves, so they're coming along alright. And as I said, you don't want to be putting your tomato plants in ground just yet anyway. You need to grow them on like we do in those 2 litre containers and get a good, stable, strong plant. So we're getting all these plants moved on, which is going to enable those plants to grow bigger quicker. While at the same time, don't forget we should still be sowing seeds. And we'll be covering that subject in a couple of days as well. What to sow and grow during May. And there's quite a lot to go through. So we'll be breaking it down into weeks. So week 1, 2, 3 and 4. And that's according to my calendar, living in UK in Derbyshire. So for certain people, you might have to tweak those dates a little bit. You might need to wait a week longer if your area is a little bit colder. We'll be covering all that very shortly. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you'd like to see that, please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And we'll see you at next update. Take care.